his conversation.
Good morning, everybody.
One of us needs to get taller or shorter.
I'm going to start with a song by Eddie Watkins Jr.
Hello.
And it's called
I don't know where he is.
I Am the Place Where God Shows Up. And what I'd like to try to do, because it has a kind of a two-part thing, if I can get you singing the chorus just for practice right now, then I'll launch into the actual song. Okay? So the chorus part goes, I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Again. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Now let's try that with me. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Good. Again. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Okay, perfect. You'll know when to come in then. All right. And welcome everybody to Unity Bremerton. It's a beautiful Sunday morning. I'm Leo Brodie. And I'll be doing the music and then later the talk too.
Right.
So here we go. Am I strong enough to bear the burdens that sometimes come living this thing called life? Am I wise enough to make the right decisions when I'm standing at a fork in the road? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. Will I have enough to do the things I need to do to take care of myself? Will I have the health of mind and body to live a life of grace and wholeness? Sometimes I wonder and ponder, only to realize I'm not alone and there's nothing I have to do on my own, because I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. You keep going. I am the place, you are the place, we are the place where God shows up. Keep going. I am the place. I am the place where God lives, moves and breathes and has its being. I am the place where God shows up. I am the place, you are the place, we are the place where God shows up. Thank you.
A wonderful way to start the morning. Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. How is everybody on this sunny summer day? Summer is finally here. We had some cloudy days, but summer is finally here. Wonderful. Okay, I wanted to welcome everybody, and I wanted to ask if there's anybody with us for the very first time today. Everybody is a returnee? Wonderful. Well, then we'll get on with things. All right, I think we have a heart song next.
My heart is filled with love for you. 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 My heart is filled with love for you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, good morning, everyone. Well, we do have people that watch live stream on the video, and so we want to say hello out there. And if anybody is wondering what the Red Heart Welcome is all about, that's what I'm going to talk about. If people are new to Unity, we welcome them with the Red Heart. And those of you who've been here before know all about it. But we welcome you in the spirit of love. We want you to know that no matter where you are on your journey of faith, we want you to be feeling welcome here. We know the world is a better place when we are willing to share our hearts. We give you this heart as a symbol of the steadfast spirit that lives within each one of us. And we ask you to carry this symbol as a member of this Red Heart Fellowship. Let it be a reminder that the love of God is always with you and to share your heart wherever you go. The Red Heart, as a symbol of fellowship in the world, can spread love one heart at a time. Let's start the movement here. And if people are online viewing us and are unfamiliar with us, just know that we often have new speakers and we rotate speakers that are our favorites. And there's always something fresh and new happening, so we urge people to attend more than once, more than twice, to get a good feel for our congregation. Yes, forever. That's wonderful. Thank you. I want to mention too that a lot of people are involved in making Sunday mornings happen. They don't just happen by accident, right? So people that are involved in helping make Sundays happen. Cindy Swink is our board member of the week. And Cindy and Nora are helping with ushering today. I am the chaplain of the day. My name is Debbie Clay, and I'm also your platform assistant. Our youth ed champion is also Nora today. Our hospitality hosts are Mary Ellen and Laura. And next to Spick and Span Angels, it says everyone. So at the end, when we have our fellowship time, if you could help with maybe sweeping up the crumbs, that sort of thing, it would be much appreciated. And our technology director with sound and video and computer is Mark Swink. Thank you, Mark. One thing I wanted to mention is every Thursday night we have a Course in Miracles study group right here at Unity, and it's at 7 p.m. All are welcome, and if you feel called, please join us. And now I'd like to welcome Cindy Swink with more announcements. Okay, and we are very fortunate today to have our both guest speaker and musician, Leo Brodie. Leo Brodie. I'm having some kind of flashback, sorry. Must be late. All right, it's annual membership renewal time. Yeehaw! Thank you for those of you that have turned in the forms. Those of you that haven't and need one, we have them out in the fellowship area, so just let me know and fill them out, turn them in. Turn them in before you leave and you won't forget. We want to remind you that we are live streaming, so please keep the discussions down to a minimum. Put your phones on vibrate or turn them off because everything gets picked up there, especially during our candle lighting and paper burning portion of our service. We want to remind you also that there are prayer request forms in the backs of the chairs. So if you want to fill one out, you can put it in the offertory bag or in the box up here, and our chaplains will take care of that for you. Unity of North Kitsap has a weekly meditation. This Thursday, July 12th, Peace Through Mindfulness Meditation. Let's see, real peace is demonstrated when we can remain calm in our hearts despite the turbulence around us. Join Anna Welsh in this week's meditation as they practice loving kindness and the non-judgmental disciplines of mindfulness. Just as the persistent tides will wash smooth the roughness of the rocks and shells, our peace and oneness will calm the imbalances created by fear. And that's at the Fellowship Hall, Faith Episcopal in Polsvo. We will be participating in the 7th Annual Midsummer Healing and Intuitive Arts Fair next Saturday, July 14th. There's still a couple of slots available to sit there and share the words of what Unity is all about. So if you're interested, please sign up out there in the fellowship area. And also at Unity North Kitsap, they have a Louise Hay's Body Wisdom Workshop. If there's enough interest, Certified Louise Hay Workshop Facilitator Leslie Hamill is going to lead a 3-hour workshop from 1 till 4 on Sunday, July 22nd. So if you're interested in that, let me know. I do have Leslie's contact information. Please stop by the fellowship area to check out all the different signups. We have things going on all the time. You just never know what might be happening, so please take a look and see what's up. We want to share a little bit of bittersweet news today. We have this beautiful flower that Mary Ellen brought in from her garden. This is in honor of Jim Bryan, who passed away last Sunday evening. He didn't want a big fuss. He was a very kind and loving and wonderful man. He didn't like a big fuss about anything. We've reached out to Charlene, but there are some plans. Dawn, you wanted to share some information about what's going on tonight?
They have an activity at Carmel Pennington's place on Woods Road. And Jim had reached out to so many people in the community and brought a lot of joy, and sustenance, as it were, and things like this. So he was, I think, a remarkable guy, and we're going to miss him.
Yes, we are going to miss him.
It's a 5 o'clock potluck.
Yeah, it's a 5 o'clock potluck. There's a couple of people in our group that knows where Carmel's place is, so if you're interested, go out and fellowship and they'll share the information with you if you want to attend. We have reached out to Charlene to see if she wants to do something here, and we'll keep you posted what comes of that. There is a card out in the fellowship area to sign that we're sending to Charlene. So if you'd like to sign that, that's out there. And then, of course, if you have any questions or concerns, please see a board member. Thank you. A lot of people will remember that both Jim and Charlene were highly involved with our Food for Life program, that is getting the lunch items to the homeless so that they had something to eat during the day. There's a lot of resources around the area for breakfast for the homeless and dinner for the homeless, but that middle of the day, yeah. Yes, Jamie?
Well, I just want to remind everybody that Jim was the one that started the program. He wasn't just involved,
Absolutely.
he started it. So
Well,
it was
yes,
because
yes,
of him that we
yes.
did it.
So, anyway, a real blessing both he and Charlene provided to this congregation and to our community. All right, so it's time to light the Christ candle, and this candle represents a divine light within each one of us.
I don't know how this works. Hate those things.
Get 2 sticks.
That's help.
I don't see a flame coming out at all.
You are correct.
She's just doing that to make me
There's a
feel
back
better.
master. Yeah, master's great. Yeah, that's great.
Okay, backup matches the rescue.
The old fashioned way.
Back to basics.
Thank you. Thank you. Debbie leads the rescue. Okay, so on the screen, we have our mission statement. We are a welcoming community. Everybody, we are a welcoming community supporting our mutual quest for spiritual truth. And our invocation, there is one presence and one power active in the universe and in my life, God the good omnipotence. Okay, we're going to have handshakes and hugs. Please keep this short because we're going to have fellowship time afterwards. And if you hug, hug gently. Thank you.
I'm assuming
Hi, how are you? Hi, you look great. Yeah, we're saying hello. I'm Dina. Hi there. Nice to know. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go.
Back to California. Come to
Oh, okay. Oh, I understand there's a wedding coming up. I'll never go hungry. That's right. I was just recalling Laura.
Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 hey. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everyone you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, 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 yeah, yeah. Let us make a joyful sound. Here we stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Here we stand on holy ground. Let us make a joyful sound. Hey, 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 hey. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Everybody, get up on your feet. See the light in everybody you meet. Let us be reminded of who we've come to be. We are love, we are one big family. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah. Hey, hey, yeah, yeah.
Today's daily word is comfort. In extending comfort to others, I find peace. The 23rd Psalm affirms comfort through the darkest valley. At times it may seem that only by finding myself in a dark valley am I able to appreciate the spiritual substance by which I am surrounded. Faith reminds me that comfort is a quality of spirit, not dependent on conditions or circumstances in my life. say that again. I remember that faith reminds me that comfort is a quality of spirit, not dependent on conditions or circumstances in this life. Right here. This awareness aids me in being a channel of comfort and serenity for others as well. I do so by replacing drama and instant judgment with an energy of peace and love. At every opportunity, even through any seeming valleys, I find time to be still and know. Nothing can disturb the calm that I feel and the serenity that I share with others. And my mom always used to say, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And I just love that. Rosella gave me a little goodie to have it on my kitchen counter, and it says, nothing can disturb the calm peace of my soul. And from the 23rd Psalm, verse 6, surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord my whole life long. In extending comfort to others, I find peace. God bless us.
Okay, please join in this congregational song, I Am As God Created Me. I'm going to sing a song. Do anybody remember the Muppet movie where Kermit the Frog is sitting on the log in the swamp and,
I think so.
and he sings the song? Okay. Well, this is a really special song to me. So it's one of the most spiritual songs, you know. It is really. I know you can't help but think of Kermit the Frog, right? Why are there so many songs about rainbows, and what's on the other side? Rainbows are visions, but only illusions, and rainbows have nothing to hide. So we've been told, and some choose to believe it. I think they're wrong, wait and see. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. Who said that every wish would be heard and answered when wished on a morning star? Somebody thought of that, and someone believed it, and look what it its stones so far. What's so amazing that keeps us stargazing? And what do we think we might see? Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. All of us under its spell, we know that it's probably magic. Have you been half asleep, and have you heard voices? I've heard them calling my name. Is this the sweet sound that calls the young sailors? The voice might be one and the same. I've heard it too many times to ignore it. It's something that I'm supposed to be. Someday we'll find it, the rainbow connection, the lovers, the dreamers, and me. La da da dee 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 dee, la la da 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 do.
I want to say thank you to you for performing I Am As God Created Me, Michael Stillwater song. Brings back some happy memories for me, so thank you. So our guest speaker and guest musician today, all in one, Mr. Leo Brodie.
It's a short walk. Well, I'm so happy to be back here in both capacities. I put on my Facebook this morning that I'm talking and rocking. So the title is "You Don't Have to Be Perfect." So I just want to do a quick poll. Is anybody here perfect? Okay, a couple people. So you don't have to pay attention. You're already there. You're right. Most of us do not feel perfect, and you probably don't either. You're just making a joke. So, I'm going to talk about it's a little bit kind of a different topic, because it's sort of not a positive message that I'm talking about. It ends up being a positive message, but I really want to talk about what keeps us from being our true, authentic selves, what keeps us from loving. And it's really these fears and these ugly things, these things that we consider imperfect about ourselves. So I'm going to start with a very embarrassing story. It's good for the soul, right? Okay, so my younger daughter, well, I'll tell the end of the story. She just passed her driver's test, her driving test, so she has her license now. It took her 3 tries, though. And after the second try, I was already concerned that she hadn't been practicing enough. You know, she just didn't get out and drive. She really kind of doesn't even want to drive, really. She just likes to stay at home and do her thing. But after the second time, when we got the news that she had failed again, I was driving her home, you know, and I told myself that this would be a good opportunity to just talk some sense into that girl. And I decided that it would be good for her to hear, you know, that she needs to apply herself more, that it wasn't her, I'm not upset that she didn't pass the test. That happens. It was that she wasn't practicing. So I've been watching that she wasn't practicing this whole time, and I was getting more and more upset. And then she takes the test and she fails, and so I'm really mad. And so I think she needs to hear this. She needs to understand how life works, that she needs to apply herself.
Yes.
So we're driving home, and she feels terrible that she didn't pass, right? I mean, she's not happy about it. And so I'm choosing that particular moment to go off on my rant about how she wasn't doing what everybody was saying she should be doing. And she wasn't practicing. And not only that, but I threw in other household chore kinds of things. Well, it didn't go well. I mean, from the point of view of being effective, it was a disaster. From the point of view of building rapport with my daughter, it was a disaster. In terms of my own need to be heard, well, you know, she heard me. Okay, so what was that? So I spent, you know, that rest of that day thinking, well, it served her right. And, you know, she didn't talk to me for a week. And my wife said, well, maybe your timing wasn't so good. And I thought, well, that's true. And then I thought about it some more, and I went, okay, really what I was doing was shaming her. And instead of being supportive, I was shaming her. And so I thought about, why did I do that? And I've been looking into this question for a while anyway, so I was kind of prepared to ask the question, like, what was going on inside me that convinced me that this was the right thing to do at the time? What was my story? And my best answer is that I trace it back to a fear, this is a life fear for me, that I'm not seen or heard, that I'm not listened to, that I'm kind of not appreciated in that way, right? And so I had been telling her she should practice, and she didn't listen to me. So this was validation. This was just pushing that button of that fear, that internal belief. And by fear, what I mean is that false belief that somehow I'm defective and people don't listen to me. Now, it doesn't matter, you know, you can hear me say that and go, well, that's silly. But we all have those beliefs that are just silly, but we hold them. And the point of this talk, I hope, is going to be, well, if we're hiding those fears from ourselves, then how do we ever heal ourselves from those fears? How do we heal from those fears? So, glad I got that off my chest. Sorry, daughter. Hope she never watches this. But anyway. So I did a little research. You all know Brené Brown, the woman who speaks about shame. She's really a great author and a great speaker. I've seen her speak, but I just went and got her a book where she talks about shame. She considers herself a shame expert, and her take is a little bit different. But one of the things she talks about is, I'm going to read from her book. She says there are 3 things you need to know about shame. 1, we all have it. The only people who don't are those that lack the capacity for empathy and human connection. So, if we have shame, that's good. 2, we are all afraid to talk about it, which is why I was nervous just now, talking about what I just did. Right? And 3, the less we talk about shame, the more control it has over our lives. So it's good to talk about that. So another influence that I've been working with, besides Brené Brown, on this issue, and the reason why I wanted to talk about this is not just because of the interaction with my daughter, but because I've been actually trying to explore what are my hidden fears and what keeps me back for a while. And this is all based, I just want to give credit to a very unlikely source. It's a physicist named Tom Campbell. And Tom Campbell's a really interesting guy if you want to check him out. He's a physicist, but he's developed a whole theory of the universe that brings consciousness into play and why we're here, why we exist, and what we're supposed to do with our lives. And it's quite interesting. But one of the things he talks about is this issue of resolving fear. So I just wanted to give him credit for that. The main idea is in that philosophy is that we come here to Earth, to this human existence, for the purpose of growing up. And by that, he means growing up from being self-centered, the way, if you think of it like an infant, starts off just, it's all about the baby, and that's a healthy thing. And we move through that phase, and eventually we get to the point where we have to start, or we don't have to, and actually we don't have to do anything, but if we're evolving, if we're growing, then we're going to start seeing things from the perspective of other people, and we're going to be more interested in cooperation and communication and sharing and loving. So in that point of view, the whole reason why we're here is to learn to grow up, which is the same as saying to love. To learn to love. And what keeps us from doing that, as I said before, well, it's fear, belief, and ego, the way he describes it. So I've already described what these fears are. These are just like internal, any kind of internal idea that I'm not good enough, or it's something that's just this, we don't even know, it doesn't even matter where we get these ideas. Our souls didn't come with these ideas, I don't believe. I think that we get these ideas, and it's actually part of the plan in a way that we have these things, because that gives us an opportunity to grow out of it. It is part of the process of moving away from being self-centered. So Tom Campbell describes it using the word ego, and he uses the word a little differently maybe than some people do, but he doesn't mean, by ego, he doesn't mean the self. He means an artificial construction, like a fortress or a shield that we construct so that we can protect these shames or these hidden fears and not reveal them. So it's like if I have a hidden fear that I'm not important, or that I'm not worthy or something like that, then I might put on an ego where I pretend to be very important, or act a certain way. But inside I know I'm living a lie, So that's what he means by ego. So it's an interesting definition. So we want to crack that open. We want to break that down. And ego is not the same as self-awareness. It's just being self-aware is something we need to do. But the ego part is that construction where we're adding layers to hide who we really, not who we really are, but to hide the things that we're ashamed of. And so this ego, and you see this, you can start recognizing this in people, even in yourself, that need to appear a certain way prevents us from being loving. Because when we're worried about what other people think of us, we're not really thinking about them, we're thinking about us. When we're serving our own interest, and it also comes from I need to have this, or I need to have these clothes, or these things, because I need to pretend to be something. It just creates this whole cascade of needs, which aren't based on reality. They're based on this false idea that we have to protect our ego so that people don't know how bad we really are, what a failure we really are, or whatever. So ego blocks love for that reason. Now this is interesting because I think that this happens to each of us. It happens to us in our lifetime, that we kind of go through that evolution, that growing up. It also happens, I believe, to our, what you might call our soul, if you believe in reincarnation, that we keep coming back. And that every time we're kind of getting better at doing that. Every time we're learning to be a little less self-centered and a little more loving, a little more outward directed and more cooperative. And I think it's also true for the human race, that over time we're collectively building on generations of becoming more loving. And I was just thinking about this a few days ago because we just had the 4th of July. And a lot of people are celebrating, well, it's the day that we celebrate the independence, right? So a lot of people are celebrating the fact that our founding fathers
separated themselves from Great Britain and created a new country, and it was based on it's a beautiful, I happen to believe the Constitution is a beautiful document. It's based on freedom and independence, liberty, self-determination, things like that. And yet, our country was born with being based on the genocide of the Native American people who lived here before because we needed their land. And it was based, at the same time they were writing this, it was based on slavery. Enslavement of the black people, Africans coming over to work in the fields. And so we have this great idea of ourselves as being free, which is all true, and it's wonderful, and it should be celebrated, but at the same time we have this shame. That's how I see it. We have this, if you want to think of it this way, in terms of what I just described, our country has developed an ego to hide the shame of what we've done. And so a lot of the flag waving that we see isn't so much that, it's just ego trying to keep us from just acknowledging what the truth is. Anyway, enough of that. But I just want to take that idea and kind of explore that idea of how the ego can be used as a mechanism to hide it. So here's some examples of ideas that we could call fear ideas. I'm not worthy. I don't deserve to be happy. I don't deserve to be prosperous. I mean, that's a common one. I don't believe, or I don't deserve to be wealthy. I don't deserve to live well. I'm not lovable. I'm stupid and I'll never amount to anything. I'm not good enough and people won't like me. These are just things that they're all fears that based on, in a way, it's a lack of faith, knowing that God is in us, that we don't remember the perfection that we were, and somehow we have these ideas. But again, the problem is that through most of life, if we have these fears, to the extent that we have these fears, we don't really know them because the ego is doing such a good job of hiding them from us. So, now ego is really good at providing strategies to protect itself, just like the blood cells have strategies for the immune reactions, the white blood cells and everything. The ego has strategies for protecting itself. So, for example, if someone feels inadequate, if that's their fear, that they feel inadequate, then one strategy might be, they just get out there and they're just boisterous as heck and they dress up and they act really big and loud and sure of themselves, when inside they're going, oh my God, Or alternatively, another strategy could be that they become a wallflower because they don't want to stand out. They don't want anybody to know. I'm not really worth anything. So that's another strategy that people could take. And a big strategy that people do is the strategy of saying, if I don't play, I won't lose. And that's a real dangerous one because it's kind of hard. You kind of think, if I just stand still, then I'm not going to make any mistakes. But the truth is, it's kind of like there's this constant tide washing everything away. So if you're just standing there, you're really moving backwards. You're not only not moving forwards, you're really sliding backwards. So be big, take chances, I think would be the lesson there. So what we really want to do is we want to get free of that ego. And when we get free of that ego, we can get rid of the fear, and then we can just be love. And the idea is we are naturally loving. We are love. And so it's not that we need to be more loving. It's not like I want to be more loving or I have to make myself be more loving. It's one of my goals for the day. We just need to let go of the things that stop us from being loving. We need to let go of those things. So step one is we have to understand what the fear is. And as I said, the ego is doing this job of keeping it secret from everybody else and even from us. So how do we do that? Well, the way we do that is by looking at those places where we get irritated or angry. In other words, we look at our emotions. And then we can trace back from the because the emotions are very out there. The ego is actually pretty easy to see. I mean, if you see through it, it's easy to see what's going on there. So in the case of my flipping out of my daughter, it took me a day to really starting to think about it, unfortunately, but it was a clue. Eventually, it was a clue to me that something was going on that drove me to do that, and I had to think about it. And I think it might have taken me like a week or something. I'm a little slow. But it took me a while to figure out, oh, this has to do with not being listened to. And that felt right. Of course, it didn't help me feel better exactly, but it's once you have it, once you know what it is, then it's like exposing the truth, and that's the way you can heal it, like that. You have to just know what's going on. So that's the first thing. So this fear of mine that people don't listen to me or take me seriously, I'm not really sure where that came from, but I do find it showing up a lot. And so, honestly, I think one of the reasons why I like performing and speaking is because, oh boy, people get to listen to me. I mean, it's just like, okay, now that's not a bad thing, but it sort of explains a lot. I think it's healthy, is the point. It's healthy to know what are these things going on, because if it's working against, it can work against me as well. Like I can get mad that people aren't listening to me or something, or frustrated or whatever. So it's good and healthy to know what's going on there. So that's the step. That's the first step, is to get what it is and then to acknowledge it. And this is where we have to combat the ego wanting to hide it. We have to go, okay, it's true. It's true. That's a belief that I have. And that's where acceptance comes in. And that's really where the title about not being perfect comes in. We have to be okay with being what we consider less than perfect. We have to be okay with it, otherwise we can never heal it. Otherwise it has more and more energy. And we're not releasing the energy by working through it. So we have to accept those imperfections. So if you think about it in terms of like what I did with shaming my daughter, this is kind of what we do with ourselves. When we have we have a negative belief of ourselves and we don't want to talk about it, we shame ourselves with it. And is it effective? Was it effective on my daughter? No, it's not effective when I do it to myself. So let's not shame ourselves for being a certain way. Let's look at it, have some acceptance. Not that we want to stay that way, but just let's be okay with not being perfect. Because why are we here? We're here to grow up. How can we grow up? I feel like a coach. How can we grow up unless we have little things that we have to go through? Things that will wake us up. So what do we need to do? We need to pay attention so that we wake up. So it's a good thing. Yay! Yeah, all right. That's a good way to do it. So, and in spiritual circles, it's sometimes people get the idea, and this is people who kind of explore it maybe at the surface level and haven't gone super deep. But you kind of get the idea, oh, this is a place where everybody's positive and everybody's happy and everybody's, putting out, oh, let's just talk about affirmations. I know on your sign it says affirmations and denials. That's what you believe in. But I mean, the perception sometimes people, when they come to an upbeat community, like a unity community or Science of Mind community, is, oh, yeah, it's really so upbeat. How are these people so upbeat? But so you kind of get the impression maybe that you're not supposed to have down moments, that you're supposed to be perfect, and you have to try. So that you're putting yourself back in the trap of trying to be perfect, and that's not what it's all about. That's not what being spiritual means. But it is something that sometimes I think, with all our happy music and everything, we can convey that impression. So yes, you have permission to not be perfect because you aren't perfect, but you are perfect at another level. It's just you're growing up. Oh, that's another thing I want to say. It's like when you have a kid and the kid is riding a bicycle, learning to ride the bicycle, you're not expecting them to be perfect. Until, I mean, eventually they're going to fall over, right? It's not something that we just are born knowing how to do. So we can apply that forgiveness, if you want to call it that acceptance, we can apply that to ourselves. If we're stumbling around acting with unskilled behavior like I was with my daughter, well, there's no point beating myself up or being ashamed of that. I'm just embarrassed by it, and I'm growing from it, hopefully. So that's just like riding the bicycle. You get back up on the bike and you go again. So again, it's a good thing. And we make our apologies, and we move on. And I did. So and then once we have acknowledged our fears, what do we do to actually let go of them? And this is where it gets interesting. Of course, the first way is that we can one of the ways that Brene Brown talks about, and I mentioned this already, is that we have to talk about it with people. We have to share our stories. So she says we need to share our experience. If we can find someone who has earned the right to hear our story, we need to tell it. Shame loses power when it is spoken. So that's a key caveat there. It doesn't mean that you go around telling everybody on the bus or, everybody at your family dinner what you're ashamed of about yourself. Because you might not get a healthy, kind reaction. People might try to shame you, in fact, which is not what you want, right? But if you have a close friend and you can, or an intimate partner you can talk about these things with, then it's healing for the soul. And it also gives them permission to open up and not have to be perfect. So it can build intimacy in that way. So the other way we can deal with it is through prayer. We can set our intention very clearly that we want to be released from the fear. The problem there is that when we pray for ourselves, we're setting an intention, and we have to have a really clear, strong intention in our own mind. And if we're talking about ourselves and we're talking about hidden beliefs, we may be stepping on our own foot when we're doing it, because we sort of don't really want to know. There's a part of us that kind of doesn't want to go to that scary place. So if you could get somebody else to pray, like a chaplain, or a friend, you can do that. But the way that Tom Campbell talks about it, I'm going back to Tom Campbell, is he does this thing that sounds really risky, and it almost sounds unspiritual, but I think it's really brilliant. And this isn't the first time I've heard this idea either, but the idea is when you have some kind of fear, like what if no one will ever love me? You say, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Now that's a scary thing to ponder, because, again, we're sort of trained, we don't want to go into the negative. We don't want to think about the bad things. We certainly don't want to dwell on the bad things. This is a little different than like affirming a problem or staying stuck in a problem. This is actually facing the fear. See the difference? It's so let me give you an example here. So let's say I thought that I'm not worthy of attention. I feel like people don't pay attention to me, and I had this deep fear. I'm just not worthy. There's nothing about me that's interesting. And I'm not necessarily aware of that at first, right? I'm kind of going through my life acting sort of weird in certain ways, and I'm now getting to the point where I trace it back to this idea, this crazy idea that I'm somehow not worthy of attention. Now, what am I going to do to get rid of that? So I've already shared it with a friend. I've already prayed about it. Well, now I can do this work that takes just a quiet space, some time, some calm, some peace, and you just go, okay, so what if I have nothing of interest to anybody else? What if there's nothing about me that's interesting to anybody else? Is that so bad? I mean, if nobody is interested in anything I have to say, I can still be a good person. I can still contribute. I can still have friends. You know, I don't have to be someone that everybody goes to, wow, so interesting. In fact, how much do I do that with other people? You know, I mean, when you start to break it down and think about it, what would be the worst thing that can happen? It's hard to put this into words, but I hope you're getting it. You know, you have to do this for yourself. You take your own worst fears, and I'm not going to ask you to speak out so we can do an exercise here, but you kind of have to do it on your own. You take your worst fears and you just play it out, and you can sort of go, at first, and then you start to go, oh, yes. And then you can start to shift in, and you really can feel, I mean, I've done it, and I can really feel the ego things falling away. Because when I feel like nobody's paying attention to me, if that's the fear, that nobody's noticing me, and I'm now acknowledging, okay, so what if nobody's noticing me? That is totally dropping this ego need to be noticed. I remember as a kid, I felt I needed to be noticed. I was an only child, and I would do things like to make my parents think I was wonderful, you know, and I sort of carried that. Point is, you can do this work, and it's kind of not fun in a way, but it's really freeing. I hope that's helpful. And it does get easier. The more you do this, the more you practice it, you kind of go, okay, hey, it's another fear. Bring it on, you know. Let's drop those fears, and then we can start to be our authentic, true self. And here's another interesting thing. Sometimes we want to. I think a lot of us are feeling this. I know I'm feeling it right now, especially in the world. It's like we want to go and help the world. Like we want to change the world. We want to make the world a better place. Well, that's a good thing, right? But the way we usually think about how can I make the world a better place is by somehow changing something out there. If I could find the right lever to pull, you know, if I could change other people's minds, or if I could, you know, change who the ruler is, or change what the laws are, or whatever. If I could advocate for changing the externals from me, then everything would be okay. And the problem is that it really doesn't work that way. It's like me trying to shame my daughter into changing her behavior. It's like you can't just change an external without changing the way people are thinking, and without changing everybody. And the only person that you can change is yourself. Yep. So actually, the way to change the world is to work on yourself and to become more loving and be more cooperative. And this works in, I think, multiple ways. Because first of all, you become more loving. People can feel that. We are connected, psychically, energetically, you might say. We might not even know the words for it or even feel it consciously, but we feel the vibration when somebody's loving and generous and kind. We just kind of pick up on that, and it's contagious, just the same way that anger can be contagious, mob rule can be contagious. So we can work to elevate the consciousness of the planet, just one party at a time, one interaction at the grocery store at a time, just by doing that. And also it is I think it is elevating the consciousness of the planet, and it's also elevating the consciousness of humanity. Again, going back to this idea that we're here, and it's kind of this nested layers of things that are all growing at the same time. So that's really cool. So I just want to end up then really briefly with this definition of perfectionism, since the title was You Don't Have to Be Perfect. This is from Brene Brown's book, and the name of the book is The Gifts of Imperfection. Let go of who you think you're supposed to be and embrace who you are. She says, perfectionism is the belief that if we live perfect, we look perfect, and act perfect, we can minimize or avoid the pain of blame, judgment, and shame. But perfectionism is more about perception than about doing something useful. Perfection is an unattainable goal. It can never be perfect. And perfectionism actually prevents us from taking flight. So, I'm now going to bless you and ordain you as ministers in the service of being imperfect and living joyfully and acknowledging who you are, loving and accepting that all of you, and totally being present, being willing to show up for other people, warts and all, be present, be real, and be more joyful. Let us just take a moment of thanks to turn inward and to know that God is right there within us. God is all around us. And that we have, in the midst of God's presence within us, we have some of our own ideas that we hold on to, that we try to cover and hide. And those ideas are not God's ideas. They're our own ideas. But they comfort us or reassure us because they are how we identify as ourselves. We've become comfortable with those black thoughts that are there floating around in the midst of the presence of God. And I know right now that wisdom is filling every one of us in this room, now and going forward. As we leave, as we carry these ideas home, we are now filled with wisdom, with courage, and the love of Spirit, knowing that Spirit is way stronger than any little silly ideas that we picked up along the way and that we're clinging to as if they were badges of something important. We let those go. We release them. We release them now into the nothingness from which they came. And with that, we let the love rush in. We let the love rush through. We let our presence, our being, our representation of God here on this planet, showing up as the face of God in human form. I give gratitude for the truth and the ability to see the truth, the ability to release and to not have to be stuck wherever we might be. I give gratitude for growth. I give gratitude for love. And so it is. Okay. This is a song by Ricky Byers. I don't know if you know him. We got the lyrics up there. Oh yes, so I hate to have to stop and explain it, but it's a really beautiful song, and it will really help ground you in the song and the meaning of the song if you can sing the parts. And the way it's done on the screen is that your part is the larger type, and you're pretty much responding to the lines that I sing. So I'm gonna sing both parts, but you'll figure it out, and I want you to let me sing the lyrics that are the smaller type, and then when it gets to the larger type, you come in big and strong, so I can hear you over me. And then eventually, when I hear you good and strong, I will stop singing the lyrics. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. Now I can stop being a camp director and go into the song. Let me love in a holy, holy way. Let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy way. Let me love in a holy, holy way. Oh, let me know that love is all around me. Let me know that love is all around me. Let me know that love is all around me. Let me know that love is all around me. Oh, let me love in a holy, holy
We're going to be having a time of offertory, so I ask you to take your gift in your hand and prepare your offering for sharing. Our guest musician is going to be playing some music, and we'll be singing "I Am So Blessed." The lyrics are on the screen, and we will also have the candles available to light if you'd like to light a candle for yourself or for a loved one or Jim Bryan. And also, if you'd like to release something into the flame, the burning bowl will be available. So I invite you to participate. Thank you.
So blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful, I am so blessed. I am
All right, Nora, could you come forward, and Cindy, and I represent the chaplains, and together as a congregation, we're going to bless the offering. The blessing is on the screen. Can we say this together?
I give willingly, joyfully, and lovingly, knowing that God is the constant source of my supply. I give with graciousness and receive with gratitude.
Thank you, God. Wonderful. All right. The Food for Life program for the homeless. Is anybody willing to take the bag and fill it with non-perishable items for the homeless? Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Melinda. Okay, and good news. Does anybody have any good news to share? Yes, Cindy.
We do have Carmel's address, so for those of you who are interested in going tonight for the 5 o'clock potluck, come to the office, we can give you that information.
When is it?
Tonight at 5 o'clock.
Oh, tonight at 5? Yeah,
Kind
you
of an
definitely
informal
want to
show.
use Google if you haven't been there before, because it's not easy to find.
Oh, it's just a top of Mile Hill to the right.
Oh, not the way I went.
I have good news.
Oh, Sally's got it.
Hi, Sally. Yes, did you have something to say?
My granddaughter is being married next Sunday in Port Orchard.
Right on Woods.
And Marilyn was just saying that Maddie was in her little dancing class.
Back when she was shorter than Nora.
Nora, that's right.
Wonderful.
This one.
Wonderful. Yes, Melinda?
Google from Bremerton, does it take you into Port Orchard?
If you've been watching the news,
It doesn't
I
take you
find it
through
really
that.
fascinating that all of the nations have gathered together to pull these kids and their coach out of this tunnel.
Yes.
And it's amazing to see everybody pull together and pool their resources, and so far it's cost one life, so it's just important to pass the love on, hopefully get the rest of them out of this trouble.
Definitely. We can definitely hold both the children and their coach and all the people involved in the rescue efforts in our prayers. Send them some positive energy.
They got 4 of them out this morning.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
And Irene has some good news.
Irene?
Oh, I'm retired. 38 years of teaching.
Wow, good for you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Just a reminder, I am the chaplain of the day, and if you would like supportive prayer following the service, I'm available for that. And so speak to me if you would like some supportive prayer following the service. Okay. Were there any children in our Sunday school today? No. Okay. All right. Well, it's time to stand up and share our peace song and our closing prayer.
Family God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us wherever we are